as being a little bit lopsided. Does Donald Trump give good gifts?
He doesn't really put as much attention and thought into that as his foreign leader counterparts, because usually he is the one who has the power in the relationship. And so he's not spending all of his time thinking about, how do I win over Mark Carney? And I think he gave Carney a jersey because he was a hockey player at Harvard University. And so there is this imbalance, and Trump doesn't want to have to look like he's spending tens of thousands of dollars for foreign leader gifts.
I must have been slightly surprised he gave Mark Carney anything, given where the relationship is. But I mean, does this help? Does this make a difference in diplomacy?
I think it does. They would not be doing this if it didn't. I don't think it's a determinative factor if you're going to get lots of tariffs, but you want to have something to make it look like you had a good meeting with President Trump, even if you had some disputes in the actual meeting, or if Trump was mean to you in front of the press. So the Ukrainians have really thought about this. But there was a funny moment when the South African leader told Trump, "I'm sorry, I don't have a jet to offer you." And President Trump said, "Well, I wish you did."
Politico's White House reporter Daniel Lippman talking to James Kumarasamy. That brings us to our main world news once again. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have met in South Korea to discuss a possible truce in the trade war between the US and China. I'll have a summary next. That's it for now from the newsroom.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media, producer and distributor of award-winning public radio content, engaging audiences, creating meaningful experiences, and fostering conversations. APM, American Public Media, with support from The Economist, introducing The Economist Insider, a new video offering with twice-weekly shows featuring in-depth analysis and expertise. More at economist.com/insider.
The cost of cars, including insurance and maintenance, is going up. We look at what's been driving those higher costs. That's on the next morning edition from NPR News.
This is the BBC World Service. Coming up after the news, the global story. President Trump has called off trade talks with Canada after an anti-tariff TV ad aired in the U.S. Why did this ad get under Trump's skin? And how has the United States' relationship with its neighbor deteriorated in President Trump's second term? Join me, Asma Khalid, in 2 minutes.
BBC News with Oliver Conway. President Trump and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping have ended their talks in South Korea. In his opening remarks, Mr. Trump said he expected a very successful meeting, while Xi Jinping said China and the US should be partners and friends, even though they don't always see eye to eye. Earlier, Mr. Trump said he'd ordered the Pentagon to start nuclear weapons testing on an equal basis with other countries. In recent days, Russia has announced the testing of 2 new weapons capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Hurricane Melissa caused total devastation in parts of the island, with the town of Black River completely destroyed. One estimate put the cost of the damage at 40% of Jamaica's annual economic output. With nearly all the votes counted in the Dutch general election, the centrist D66 and Geert Wilders' far-right Freedom Party are neck and neck, each projected to win 26 seats. The result marks a sharp fall for the Freedom Party compared to the last election. The Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has said that organised crime there must be tackled without endangering the lives of police or innocent families. He was speaking after an anti-gang operation in Rio left more than 130 people dead. The US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says an attack on a boat suspected of transporting illegal drugs has killed 4 men in the Eastern Pacific. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described intense combat activity around the southeastern city of Pokrovsk, saying the fighting there was proving difficult. Russian troops have been trying for more than a year to capture Pokrovsk. And the former Bosnian Serb leader, Milorad Dodik, has thanked the Trump administration for lifting sanctions against him, saying it corrected a great injustice. It's unclear why the decision was made to remove the measures imposed during Mr. Trump's first term. BBC News.
There's a TV ad here in the US that's been making a lot of headlines. It played the other day during the World Series. It's a commercial that cycles through images of American life.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs.
Factories, farmland, families just going about their lives.
And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time.
And over these images, you hear the words of the popular former Republican president, Ronald Reagan.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
But it was paid for by the government of Ontario, Canada.
Canada, they did a crooked ad.
This all got under the president's skin.
Well, that's dirty playing, but I can play dirtier than they can, you know?
Trump called the ad fake. The Reagan Foundation said it misrepresents the former president's words. But more importantly, it's reignited a trade feud between the two countries. Canada is the United States' second largest trading partner, and it sells 3/4 of its goods to the U.S. But in response to this ad, and despite the fact that the U.S. has an existing trade deal with Canada, Trump decided to punish his neighbor by raising tariffs yet again. From the BBC, I'm Asma Khalid in Washington, D.C. And today on The Global Story, how has the United States' relationship with Canada deteriorated in President Trump's second term? And who is the man behind that ad that has so provoked the president? Well, Nadine, first-time guest on the show. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can I have you introduce yourself for us? Just tell listeners who you are, where you're based, what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Nadine Youssef. I am a reporter based here in Toronto, Canada. I primarily cover Canadian stories. Canada is sort of my beat, and I cover everything that happens in this big, beautiful country.
So we want to get into this latest round of tariff and trade chaos. But before we do that, I want to rewind to the first moments of this tiff between the United States and Canada. Feels like it really crossed my radar, I would say back in December, actually, even before the president took the oath of office. Can you remind us of what that moment was like?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's really good to sort of begin by underscoring just how unique the Canada and U.S. relationship is. The two countries have been friends for a very long time. They share the longest undefended border in the world. They trade with each other heavily. There's been a long-standing free trade agreement between the two countries. And a lot of Canadians travel to the U.S. all the time and vice versa. And many also have American family members. So really, really close ties between the two countries. Naturally, when the U.S. elects a new president, a lot of Canadians are paying attention. And the Canadian government was already working before President Donald Trump's inauguration to build ties with his new administration. So you brought us to December 2024. So at that time, there was a dinner that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who was the Prime Minister at the time of Canada, shared with Trump in Mar-a-Lago. After that dinner, Trump had posted on Truth Social that he enjoyed having dinner with Governor Trudeau of the great state of Canada. So obviously, what he's implying here is that he's reducing Canada to a U.S. state rather than its own sovereign country. Obviously, this was the start of what later became a repeated reference of Canada as the 51st state. But at the time, I think Canadians didn't know what to make of it and just thought it was, a light jab, him poking fun. But more and more, the more it was repeated, the more Canadians started to take it seriously. All of a sudden, it didn't feel like this was accidental or a one-time thing. And there was this one sort of telling anecdote that Trump revealed about his meetup with Trudeau.
But again, why, representing this country, why are we spending $200 billion to support and subsidize another country?
According to Trump, he had asked Trudeau what would happen to Canada if the U.S. stopped trading with it.
Because if they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist. He said that to me. They would cease to exist, which is true. certainly as a country.
And so I think it appears in Trump's mind from that interaction that the existence of Canada as a country solely relies on the U.S. And therefore, again, in Trump's mind, it may as well be part of the U.S. He feels like the U.S. is subsidizing Canada's existence, so to speak. And then I would say that, Canadians started to take it more seriously because, Trump was being asked about it. And at one point he had said that he wanted to use economic force to annex Canada. And Trudeau had also gone on to say that he believes that Trump is eyeing Canada's resources. Now, Canada's a large country, and it's rich with oil, minerals, fresh water. And so I think that Trudeau walked away hearing this remark being said over and over again and started to kind of take it seriously.
Nadine, at the same time that we hear the president making these remarks, referring to Canada as the 51st state, we also see him announce that he wants to put in place a tariff on Canada. That, I will say, caught a lot of people's attention here in Washington because the U.S. actually has an existing trade deal with Canada, one that was enacted during President Trump's first term. Well, how did that go down in Canada?
Yeah, Canada's economy is deeply intertwined with the U.S. We sell 3/4 of our products to America. So it's a huge chunk of the economy here for sure. And so the initial reaction was that of shock. I would even go as far to say as betrayal.
So today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada.
I remember Prime Minister Trudeau at the time, he really did not mince his words.
Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things.
When he sort of addressed the Canadian public and Trump directly.
Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Very dumb thing to do. That's a direct quote from him. And he also quickly put some counter tariffs on American products. This was sort of seen as Canada fighting back.
Nadine, there's a word you mentioned earlier that caught my ear, and that is betrayal. Was that the general consensus amongst Canadians at that point in time, that they felt betrayed?
Yeah, Canadians were just as upset as the Prime Minister. There's very telling scenes that were quite unprecedented that really sort of convey that mood. So, for example, you've noticed Canadians started booing the U.S. national anthem at friendly hockey.
I heard about that.
Fans in Montreal last night loudly booed the American national anthem before a face-off between the U.S. and Canadian teams.
And that is so rare.
Also, my perception of Canadians is that they're quite friendly. Yes. So I wouldn't have anticipated that they would be booing anybody, let alone the Americans.
Yes, exactly. That's how you know that they were really, really upset. But it didn't just stop at the booing. They started boycotting U.S. products. Even grocery stores and companies went as far as sort of labeling made in Canada products. And grocery stores did this because they knew that Canadians were looking for Canadian